Imagine a world where plastic outweighed the life. A world where plants and trees died long ago to our own pollution. If we don't want this world to become our reality, then all we have to do is our part. My part is an attempt to help reduce the amount of plastic used in the processes of gardening. While gardening is an outdoor activity, the hard truth is that everyday gardeners still use a lot of plastic in their agricultural processes. And sure, you can reuse your pots multiple times and eventually put it in the recycling. But what's difficult for some people to grasp is the fact that worldwide a dangerous 91% of plastic isn't naturally recycled. In 2015, a graph was recorded showing that over the period of 55 years, landfill waste has increased to 25 million tons. Terrible statistics, if you ask me. So why make more of this waste with plastic plant pots? Plastic plant pots were first created as a cheaper and more reliable option to replace the original clay pots. They were much easier to mass produce and much easier to sell. They were lighter and exaggeratedly harder to break. Companies were saving so much money in the processes too. I can understand why so many people began to switch to this alternative. These companies just couldn't see how the product was hurting us. Plastic plant pots are made of PET, also known as polyethylene terephthalate. Polyethylene terephthalate makes up 100% of single-use plastic water bottles. And in 2009, a study was produced that estrogenic compounds was leaking from water bottles into the water. They tested this to make sure it was the plastic and not the water by emptying the water bottle and putting in prosopranch snails, a species of snails who is easily affected by estrogenic compounds. What's the same thing to stop happening to your plants? What's to stop the same thing from happening to your plants? Personally, I've never experienced this, as my dad often grows his plants out of stone pots, and back home just out of the ground. Realistically, this plastic isn't just hurting our world, but also hurting us in more ways than we think. Here's how I'm helping. I first collected all the materials I needed for the prototypes of my project. So I began to go around Bali to find old coconuts and pieces of bamboo on the streets and the beaches, ready to be upcycled. Once I had enough, I took them back home and stored them for later. That afternoon, my dad gave me a ride on his bike to get a few supplies. We bought a saw to cut the bamboo and soil to plant the seeds in. The next day, I sawed the bamboo down to multiple pieces and began the transformation to the sustainable plant pots. I sawed it right under the solid part to create a stand and a lot higher on the upper part to create the hole for the seeds and the dirt to go in. In the bottom, for excess water to drain, we put holes and wrote the type of plant on the side of the bamboo and coconuts. It was really easy. I basically repeated the process with the coconuts. It was really easy to find them on the street. There were plenty of old ones lying around, so I hacked them in half and took them home. I strapped down the old coconuts, the coconut to the inner shell, and began the same process as the bamboo. After making many of these sustainable plant pots, I began to realize that this project would only really work in Bali. I mean, think about it. What other countries have bamboo and coconuts just lying around in the street? I tried to think of other materials and ways to make these pots with more universal materials. And then one of my teachers gave me the idea for paper mache. But that proved difficult, as newspaper and regular printing paper was hard to find. Eventually, I was able to recycle the idea into a form of cardboard paper pot. I soaked the cardboard and formed it into a pot shape, and then tied a string around it to help it hold the dirt first. I didn't need to drill excess water holes, as the water soaked straight through the cardboard. Most of what we planted turned out well, but just didn't sit well. But some didn't sit well with growing inside my homemade pots. I attempted many different plants, like chili, cucumber, aloe vera, tomatoes, coriander, and pumpkins. I'm yet to figure out why parsley would not grow. That seemed to be the only plant that didn't like the pots. Bamboo and coconut pots are safe natural homes for seeds and seedlings. They can be put directly into the ground when the seedling is big enough. You don't even need the transplant. They become self-fertilizing and composting systems right at the side of your plant once in the ground, offering amounts of carbon for years to come, and also increasing levels of microorganisms and decomposers to create healthy, well-balanced soil. You can reuse these pots if you prefer, and toss them back into the garden as compost or garden decoration when you're finished with them. Even though plastic is terribly managed in today's world, many people do want to help. In the UK, a recent survey by Gardener's World magazine says that 66% of the readers would pay more for a more sustainable product, and 85% do wish to cut plastic out of their gardening processes. In America, there are other studies stating people would rather use a non-plastic solution as well. One of the most interesting parts of this project was getting to be creative and coming up with a sustainable solution for plastic gardening pots. The most challenging part of the project was, believe it or not, looking after them. Sometimes the plants died and I just couldn't figure out why, which was very frustrating. Although throughout this project I've learned better the attributes of becoming responsible, as my plants started to feel like family members. I am happy to say that my pots are working out for me in the environment, and I've learned how to grow food at home throughout this journey. People say that an idea is like a seed. It sprouts into something bigger and stronger, like a tree. With your help, we can make this one tree into an entire forest. Thank you to my parents, my Quest teachers, and thank you for listening.